appears to me that in the coming federal election, the biggest issue we face is the rampant increase in political and government dishonesty and corruption over the last decade. It's reached the point where no remorse is shown, more anger at being caught out. Barnaby Joyce, what kind of morally bankrupt man denies paternity for his own child in a pathetic attempt to save his political career? Andrew Broad and the sex scandal. These issues all relate to character, integrity, and a disturbing absence of both. A little time may be spent in purgatory before all is forgiven, forgotten, and in many cases, not even that, as the next expose swamps the last into forgotten memory. Let's look at some of the more recent exposés and ask if anyone at the top is being censured or punished. For example, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, the Australian Tax Office, Immigration, the Banking Royal Commission. Who is being charged for this? Who is being forced to take responsibility? And who is headed for jail? No one. So many of us sit back and watch in disgust. But I'm not just a spectator, I am also a victim amongst hundreds of thousands of Australians who have been intimidated, stood over and destroyed by dishonest and destructive behaviour from senior bureaucrats given impunity by those charged with the responsibility of representing our interests. Instead, our elected representatives have become apologists for those who manipulate their political masters by volunteering and withholding information when it suits their own sinister agendas. Corruption doesn't always have to involve money. It can be all about the potent reward of power and maintaining it in a way that's insidious enough to transcend and survive political change. In my case, the senior executive of the Civil Aviation Safety Authority has bluffed and bullshitted a conga line of gullible transport ministers. There have been 7 transport ministers in 14 years. In that time, every one of them has been courted and misled by bureaucrats more interested in surviving political change than delivering on their so-called commitment to the aviation sector. These men were recently exposed for their dishonesty by a rigorous Senate committee.
To Mr Carmody and Co, in relation to the letter you tabled and who was there at the meeting, I'm not convinced for 1 minute, Mr Carmody, this is a full endorsement of your work. It even goes in there to saying that the subcommittee, whatever the subcommittee is, didn't agree on everything. So you led me down the path of thinking everyone was holding hands and smothering each other with rose petals. Far from it, Mr Carmody.
But sadly, this news was buried in an avalanche of much bigger headlines involving the various scandals of our political establishment. The spotlight that should be shining brightly on the safety of our skies was instead beaming down on the duplicitous sexual proclivities of the minister, who should have been focused on his responsibility to assist the Deputy Prime Minister, who also happens to be the Transport Minister. So, without being able to rely on the scrutiny and care of politicians, the only way that bent government agencies can be held to account would be the scrutiny of a federal anti-corruption agency. The sooner the better. There's an election around the corner. We will have a chance to have our say, but the message for those politicians who allow abuse of power to prosper will have to be deafening. Which side of politics or independence is going to seize the baton and commit to the establishment of a federal anti-corruption investigative body with broad-reaching powers to publicly investigate the rotten core of government and its administration?